There are many incidents that can happen on a cruise, but one of the most fearful one is becoming a man or woman overboard. In a lot of cases, these incidents are one of the rare few that can happen when compared to the thousands of trips that cruise ships have to complete. But what happens if someone ends up overboard on their cruise vacation? Well, it all can depend on where such incident had happened, as if you are out in the deep sea, then chances are you may not survive. But crew members such as myself are trained for certain situations like these. So if there's 1% chance of surviving an overboard situation, then you will want to know what it is by watching this video. It may even save your life and possibly the life of others on board. Just before we continue though, I'd like for you to hit that subscribe button below, as I will be coming to you with ton loads of cruise related videos that will help to make sure your cruise will 99.9% of the time be a successful one just by becoming a supporter of the channel. Alright, let's continue. Now imagine this, you are on a relaxing cruise and while you are there on board, you hear the alert from the captain but you are not sure what it means. Well, when someone has fallen off a cruise ship, the secret alert that is used on board for crew members to be aware of such situation is widely known as Code Oscar. Code Oscar means man overboard and it is used to alert the assigned rescue team and the crew members that belong to the specific rescue operation. This alert is for crew to take up their relevant positions for an attempted rescue of the passenger who is overboard. But Code Oscar isn't the only information required for the rescue, as the rescue team will now need to know which side of the ship the passenger is located and suspected to be overboard. The passenger could be starboard side or even port side of the ship, and the rule of thumb you can follow to know what this is just by identifying where the front of the ship is, and then you can know what side is the starboard side and what side is the port side. If you so hear this announcement and you are in closest view of the man overboard, what you can do to help is shout for man overboard as loud as you possibly can, while at the same time pointing in the direction of the person who is overboard in the water. Doing this will alert the rescue team where exactly is the man overboard, and pointing in the direction also helps to make sure whenever you lose sight of the person, your pointing direction can remind you of the last visible position of the passenger overboard. This information is very helpful to know as you can help to speed up the rescue attempts just by knowing where the passenger is overboard. And who knows, this can even possibly save the life of someone you know, as anyone can fall overboard by accident, even your own family or friends. So this is good to know as you may not be able to help directly, but doing this is enough to assist with the rescue operations. The next thing you can do that can help the fallen person overboard is if you are near any life rings or life jackets. If you are not near any of these things, it is not suggested to lose sight of the overboard person, but instead direct for help from others to go ahead and get these things. Just so you know, if you are the first responder to a man overboard situation, then you are given all rights and permission to start throwing these items overboard in the direction of the person in the water. So if you are worried you may get into trouble for throwing life-saving equipment overboard, no matter what, just so you know, you will not get in any trouble for doing this, as you are only making attempts to save a life and this is considered a normal procedure. If you happen to be on board when a passenger is in such a situation, then don't hesitate to help by doing these things I've mentioned. It can actually go a long way in saving the life of the person overboard. Now, in the alternative scenario, what can you do if you are the person that has ended up overboard? Now, there are a few factors to consider here. If you somehow was intoxicated when you ended up overboard, well, I wouldn't expect you to have any survival instincts in that moment, as an intoxicated person overboard is generally not one with the highest survival chance, because for one, you probably wouldn't be sober enough to understand what just happened to you, and on top of that, your thinking capacity would long be non-existent in that moment. But if somehow you are sober and you end up becoming a man overboard, then here's your 1% of survival tactics you could potentially use to save your life. Just so you know, it will all depend where you are though. If you somehow end up overboard when you are already near a cruise port, then congratulations. You have the highest survival chance and possibly the quickest response from the rescue team, whether shoreside or from the ship itself. But if you are out in the deep ocean, and even worse, you are overboard when it is dark at night, then now is probably not the best time to learn how to swim if you couldn't already. But as humans, this is the stage where you will either enter survival mode or panic mode. You will best want to avoid panic mode at all costs. But let's be honest, who will be able to stay calm while overboard in the deep ocean? Especially as you watch the ship sailing further away from you. Even worse if it is cold at night. This is when you will have to conserve as much energy as you possibly can. and potentially hope for someone was aware that you have fell overboard. Don't just mindlessly start swimming though without identifying where you are first. There are two things you can do in this situation, and one of them is to wait for the ship to stop and then send the rescue team to come and save you. But this is only if you were spotted and an alert was put out that you had fell overboard. So the next scenario is, if you are a really good swimmer, then you can start scouting what direction is the closest land area. The best way you can find this is by following the direction of where the waves of the ocean is traveling. Waves in the sea generally travels in the direction towards land, so you can start slowly swimming to that direction. Remember, you will need to conserve as much energy as you can, so don't start speed swimming like a madman, and then you will start to expel too much energy, especially if your body needs to keep warm. If you are certain that you are too far away from any form of land or shoreside, then you will have to make attempts to start floating on your back. This is a good skill to know and develop, and if you haven't done it before, you can even practice it while you are on your cruise, just in case you may need it, as being able to float on your back saves your body energy, and you can just let the waves bring you to the direction of any nearby land. The survival rate of a person that ends up overboard is heavily reliant on how quickly another passenger or crew member on board had realized that a passenger fell off the ship into the water. And the best way you can be sure to survive a man overboard situation is to always avoid it in the first place. Try not to get too close to any ledges on purpose, avoid trying to reach over the sides of the ship, and avoid putting yourself in any situation that will likely become an outcome of you falling overboard. Also, try to stay within areas of the ship that other passengers will be able to see you if anything goes wrong. This way, someone will be there to accommodate you, and an early alert to the ship's crew will always have the highest survival rate for rescues if needed. I know it can be a cliche thing to say if someone falls overboard they should just remain calm and do not panic, but we all know that's not always the case, especially for inexperienced swimmers. One thing you should learn, whether before a cruise or while you're even on your cruise, is to try and keep your head above water. And in a man overboard situation, try to limit your intake of swallowing any water into your lungs. Try not to scream or shout while overboard, because you doing this is highly unlikely you will not be heard. Just know it will be basically you against the ocean and the sounds coming from the ship. Try to wave your arms instead. The sad truth is that people who fall overboard cruise ships rarely survive this. And it should be noted that the ship rescue team will take some time actually to reach you in the water, as the ship itself must come to a stop before the rescue boats are sent into the water to get to you. By then, it's safe to assume that the ship may already be some distance away from you.
That speck in the ocean, that's a 22-year-old man overboard. It's unclear how long he was out there. Someone on a Disney ship traveling the same route spotted him in these choppy waters off the coast of Cozumel, Mexico. From overboard to overjoyed, and back on dry land tonight.
If you've enjoyed the information from this video, I am now asking you to leave a like, comment below if you've ever come into situations like this, or what you would do to try and survive if it ever comes to you falling overboard. Also, watch my next video that you may see here on the screen. It's Onique, your cruise employee, and I'm out.